it. You ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they give a damn, you're not thinking straight, kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore. I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more speak out. It's about to head south. Never gonna make it.
Hello guys, and I am back after 2 months, and I'm not going to continue the other 2 what ifs that I started, but I'm gonna make a new what if, which is called complete copy. Basically, it's like All for One's quirk, besides the stealing part. The person still keeps their quirk, but Deku can permanently take their quirk. And if they have like a quirk that changes their physical features, it doesn't change his physical features, but it still gives him the boost. Like, if he copied Tsuyu's quirk, he wouldn't start acting like a frog or looking like a frog. He wouldn't stand like her. Instead, he'd just have a long tongue, and he'd be able to activate it whenever he wants. Okay, so let's get into the story. So Deku goes to school, and he gets made fun of for being quirkless because he hasn't went to the doctors yet to see what his quirk was. Bakugo gets his quirk activated, and then he makes fun of, well, Deku stands up for kids, and then he makes fun of Deku. And then right as Bakugo's about to hit him with the first explosion and his friends are flying over there, then Deku just copies the little boy with the wings. He flies into the air, and then he copies Bakugo's quirk. He starts going down really fast, and then he hits Bakugo with an explosion, sending him flying. And then he thinks, cool, I have an explosion and a flying quirk. And then he looks at other kids and he copies their quirks. Like the dude that can take his eyeballs out of his head, he copies his quirk. And he just, all he has to think is, man, I want that quirk. And then he can copy the quirk. So now he has eyeballs that he can pull out of his head, and then he realizes, oh my gosh, I copied his quirk. How many quirks can I copy? So he goes around copying a whole bunch of kids' quirks, and then he's like, will I have to free up space? He never has to free up space, and he copies 50 people's quirks that day. And then he copies his mom's quirk when he gets home. And basically, Deku is going to use his mom's quirk a lot because he finds it useful. If he ever needs something in an emergency situation, he can just pull it towards him. And when he copies the quirk, it doesn't get stronger or weaker than the other person. Instead, it's just as strong. So now he just he can pull things from, let's say, 10 feet away. So he starts pulling stuff over to him, and skip a few years, and Deku's really proficient at using his mom's quirk. Like, he can pull cars now. After a whole bunch of practice, he started pulling cars from over, let's say, 50 feet away. And he thinks that all is going well. And then the sludge villain attacks. And then Deku's about to be unconscious, but then he realizes, I should copy his quirk. So he copies the sludge guy's quirk. He escapes. Then All Might hits both Deku and the Sludge Man, and they both end up in prison. And then Deku's like, wait, what am I doing here? Then they're like, whoa, what the heck? He just turned into a human. How is that even possible? And he says, what? I just copied this dude's quirk when he tried to attack me. And then he's like, oh, sorry. Guess we should have checked to make sure that you were really a villain. And then Deku watches a video of All Might, and he wonders if he can copy quirks through... He wonders if he can copy quirks just through seeing them on TV. So he tries to copy All Might's quirk, and it is successful. So, when he copies this quirk, all of a sudden, he knows all of the capabilities of the quirk, and All Might, it's not like when All Might loses one for all because Deku's learning it, or the person that he's teaching, because Deku copied his quirk, All Might never gave it away. So All Might still has his quirk to give away. And Deku's like, whoa, I guess I should keep it a secret. I shouldn't tell All Might, or the FBI might be after me or something. So he keeps it a secret that he copied All Might's quirk and just says, oh, I seen the super strong dude and I copied his quirk. Anyways, now he's ready to go to UA High, and then the teacher says, Deku, didn't you want to go to UA High? Because Deku's like, was deep in thought, so he didn't hear him. Then he's like, yes. And then Baku goes like, with what? Your mom's useless quirk? You haven't been practicing like I have with the good quirk. And at that moment, Deku decides to grab Bakugo's desk and pull it towards him really fast, and then release the power so he goes flying into the wall. He's like, that was just lucky. And then Bakugo rushes at Deku, trying to use his explosion quirk, but at that moment Deku uses his explosion quirk, which is way stronger. And Deku says, when I thought that I was quirkless, I would have done anything for a quirk, even worked every day. But you, Bakugo, you just take advantage of your quirk and use it to bully people. So actually, I've somehow managed to practice more with your quirk and with my mom's quirk than you did with your one quirk. Do you see now, Bakugo? I am not weak. So, then skip forward to UA. Deku is walking in, and him and Bakugo and him started to respect each other a lot more, because Deku realized that Bakugo started being more respectful, that he just thought that he was like too strong for anyone who wasn't a pro hero. So now he's not overconfident, and he knows that he needs to practice harder. So they're talking. Then Ida turns around and he tries to embarrass Deku, but then Bakugo's like, hey, shut up. He rushes at him with the explosion because he doesn't want them to be taunting someone that's stronger than him, because that's like disrespecting him. So he rushes at him. Ida activates his speed quirk, gets away. Then Bakugo and Ida start rushing at each other because Ida thinks that he needs to be taught a lesson. And at that moment, Deku copies Ida's quirk. He speeds to the middle of them, and he decides to use his... he still uses Bakugo's quirk, and he uses an explosion that pushes them back really far. And he says that they both need to calm down and stop being so hot-headed. I understand. I will be quiet. But you need to be more respectful towards people. You think that just because your brother's ingenium that you can go around and telling other kids what to do or something? And at that moment, dang it. Anyways, at that moment, everyone was like, "Oh, what the? How did he copy his quirk? A copy quirk? How many quirks do you think he can copy?" And when they say that, he overhears it and he just sits down, saying, "Should I let everyone know that I can copy as much quirks as possible, or should I keep it a secret?" And Deku decides, "I'll keep it a secret for now." And then the robot thing starts. And let's say, with Deku was training by himself with the quirks, but he also knew that he needed strength for his mom's quirk and for Bakugo's quirk to withstand more explosion, shooting out more explosion. So he decides that he's gonna have to do some weightlifting. And as he tries to use All Might's quirk, he realizes that his hand starts to hurt. And then he's like, "I must calm down." And then he realizes that All Might's quirk is too powerful for his body, even though he's been training. So he decides that he will only try to use 5%. And he's about to unleash it, but then he's like, "Why does this pain hurt so much?" And then he thinks, "I better get home fast or find a hospital so I could release this power and be careful." Then he spreads the quirk throughout his body. Then he realizes, "I'm cooling down. I guess that spreading the quirk throughout your body instead of using it in one area is better than just using your quirk in one area and damaging yourself." So now back to the robot fight. When he starts fighting the robots, he first jumps off with All Might's quirk and Bakugo, and he uses Ida's quirk first to run really fast. Then he jumps with One For All forward, and while still using Ida's quirk for speed and Bakugo's quirk as explosion to knock out all the robots. And in a flash, Deku has destroyed 15 robots that were all half of the robots that were on one street. So he continues to do this, except for this time he makes sure that he destroys all the robots. So he's destroying like 30 robots on each street. He's destroyed 5 streets so far. So now he's at 165 points, and he's like, "I wonder if I'm doing good or if this is bad." And then like the giant robots come out, and then he's like, "I guess I better run. There's no point in taking them out. But then again, I do want to test my strength." And Otako's on the ground still, because that had nothing to do with Deku or anyone else. So she's still on the ground. And while she's on the ground screaming, Deku's about to run. He jumps first to try to get on a building to see just how big the robot is, but then he hears Otako while he's in the air. Then he jumps off the side of a building using Bakugo's quirk explosion and One For All to boost its power. Then he automatically gets right next to the robot. He's like, "Okay, I can't use too much power or we'll both be dead. So I better try to just push it to 10%. And He knows about the healing lady because he studied her, because he wanted to study every teacher at UA High. And also, he doesn't know about All Might working there. So, anyway, he uses 10% with the explosion quirk. And he's using Ida's, burst thing to make him go faster while he's in the air. Then he destroys the robot. And in doing so, he fractures his arm. But it's not just that robot that he destroys. He destroys 2 robots behind that. And then he falls on the ground and he's like, oh, wow, guess I still gotta get stronger. Then he sees more robots and says, maybe I should test out my mom's quirk too. So he lifts up the robot. He lifts it up 50 feet in the air. And when he does this, since Ochako's safe and some others have picked her up, when he does this, he's right under the robot. And he's pushing it up and he's about to pass out with the robot falling under him. But just at that moment, Ida rushes in and saves him. So now, Deku is passed out. So he falls asleep and he wakes up back at home. And this is where I will be ending the video.